But now it is my guest of the week, J.K. Rowling. I know. And that song introduces my guest. The new Cormoran Strike novel, Lethal White, is out now, written by Robert Galbraith. And Robert's here now. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Now, J.K. Rowling. Probably I should know this, but I don't know this, so I will ask it. The name Robert Galbraith, where did it come from?
I wanted not to be me.
Fair enough.
I wanted just to... I really did want to go back to... I'd always wanted to write crime, and I wanted to not do it with any fanfare, so I submitted the manuscript anonymously, and it was all great. And I even enjoyed getting rejection letters again. It was fantastic. It was just like it used to be. And I obviously needed a pseudonym, and it was a little bit random, really. Robert Kennedy was a hero of mine, so I chose Robert, and Galbraith, for some reason, I always liked. And then when I was unmasked unwillingly, when I was outed, people analysed the name as though Robert means of bright shining fame and Galbraith means stranger. And I was thinking, really? I had no idea that, things get overanalysed sometimes.
And did you really think you'd get away with it? Did you really think that no one would go?
Well, I did get away with it up to a point. I think that... obviously the first book, I had written the second book before I was unmasked, but it wasn't out yet. My ambition was to try and get 3 out without being unmasked. Because then I thought, it'll have a bit of momentum, and there's, if it's going to live on its own merits, then I might get that far. I was a bit unlucky the way it happened. I actually thought... I can say this now because I'm in the BBC, and I know it wasn't the BBC, but the BBC actually approached Robert without knowing it was me, which put me in a real quandary. And I had this bizarre meeting with my agent and my editor, and I said to them, well, what do we do? This is an amazing thing that they've contacted us to try and adapt it for TV, but I obviously can't take this meeting. And my agent, God bless him, Neil, he said... oh, we'll just say that Robert wants to get more books out before he commits. And I said, no, we can't say that. That JK may say that. Robert can't say that. He's a first-time author. He'd be biting their arm off. And then when it leaked, initially for about 4 horrible days, actually, we didn't know how it had leaked because so few people knew the secret. And I thought, someone at the BBC has put 2 and 2 together here. Same publisher, same agent, and this guy won't take a meeting? Come on. So I thought it had probably leaked from the BBC, and then when I found out how it had leaked, it was a bit of a shock.
So I would say surprising it wasn't the BBC, but for what? Isn't that great?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's wonderful.
Not the BBC's fault.
So yes, and now it is a BBC series, and I'm really proud of the series.
So Lethal White, it's interesting because now you're on book 4, Lethal White. Is the telly in your head when you're writing about Cormoran Strike? Do you see Tom?
It's a sort of hybrid. So I had a really clear mental image of my Cormoran Strike, as it were. And Tom is far more attractive than that Cormoran Strike that I was seeing. And now I see a sort of weird hybrid in my head because he is so brilliant in the role that I would say he definitely is visually in my head, though he's playing the character exactly as the character is written, I think, so he doesn't really influence the personality of the character.
And Lethal White, now... again, see, I'm nervous. See, this is why I shouldn't read the books. So I can but now I'm
with your ignorance unblemished.
Because now I'm going to exactly. Now I'm going to ask a question, and you're going to roll your eyes, going like, he is so stupid.
No.
Why is it set the summer of the Olympics? Oh no, I'm sorry, I said it.
No, I think that's a really good question.
Okay.
The first book is set in 2010, and I chose to set it there because. And I do think, in retrospect, I was right. I had this weird sense that in 2010 we were coming to the end of something. I had this powerful sense that that Britain was changing in some fundamental way. I think the financial crash had just happened, and obviously we were heading towards this new coalition government. Remember those halcyon days before Brexit? And so. That's why we've moved on sort of 4 books and we're now in 2012. So I'm lagging behind time-wise. In some ways it's quite nice because you get a little bit of perspective on what it was and you get to process your ideas about what happened then. And the Olympics was such an extraordinary time in London that I think it appealed to me a lot as a sort of a glimpse at a different kind of Britain. You know?
And when you started the books and you put the office at Denmark Street, did you know that Denmark Street was a goner?
Well, I didn't know it was a goner at the time. I knew that it was sort of going.
Yeah.
And that in itself is interesting because of what's happening in London, right?
And it's all kicking off sort of in this book. This is when all the work is starting.
Exactly. Strike realises that his beloved office might be sold out from under him. Yeah.
And something I was wondering, when you were putting the whole idea together, why did you decide that your detective wasn't going to be a member of the police or the security services?
I think that's a brilliant question because I get asked that all the time. So
yin and yang.
Well,
it's a great question, but quite common.
No, it's a great question because I've never been able to answer it to many people at once, Graham. Now I don't have to pick them off individually.
Stop asking. Definitive answer coming up. Here we go.
Here we go. So I set myself the challenge of writing what I think is a sort of classic whodunit with all of the golden age atmosphere of having one or two people working undercover in a very contemporary setting. So Strike and Robin are a bit of an anomaly in crime fiction at the moment because we're seeing a lot of police procedurals and so on. And I deliberately wanted to pick someone. It's just quite a romantic idea, the private detective. But it's contemporary in that he is a veteran of a recent war. And there are issues around his disability and the fact that he's ex-army. And all of that really appealed to me. And there are lots of challenges in writing that kind of novel now because he doesn't have access to sort of DNA evidence and so on in the way that the police do. But that in itself is interesting, you know. So he's this sort of slightly gawky figure who is still doing old-fashioned detection.
Yeah. And is it harder in this book because you have to acknowledge that he has become more successful.
Yeah, absolutely.
So is it harder because you have to it's a business. He's running a business. He wants to be successful.
He's running a business and he wants to stay on the street, but he's now getting quite famous. So then so that brings its own challenges. And that interests me too, that I don't think we need to Freud for this one, but it does interest me, someone who really does want to be undercover, who really does want to be anonymous. And the inevitable corollary of their success is that they can't be entirely that anymore. But, like his author, he sometimes does use his celebrity, as you know, because in this book he does find that some people are keener to speak to him because he is famous.
Obviously, without spoilers, what happens to Corman and Robin in this? What are they investigating?
Strike meets a clearly mentally disturbed young man who comes to his office and says, I saw a child strangled years ago and it's buried by a house. That's all he says. And then he flees, thinking that that Strike's going to phone the police. So that's the beginning. And the solution leads us through the Houses of Parliament and into Oxfordshire and to some other places too.
And in this book, because it's Robert Galbraith writing a book, thriller, but equally it's you. And,
yes.
I follow you on Twitter and you're very kind of politically active and you have you have views. You have views.
I have views. Robert's a much quieter sort of guy. I think, yeah.
But because you are, a lot of this book is set in Westminster, or not set, but certainly the, yes.
Part of the action takes place inside the Houses of Parliament, yeah.
Is there any, and as a reader there didn't seem to be, but is there any sort of political point you're making?
No, not really at all. I think within the book there's a Tory minister, there's a Liberal Democrat minister, and there is a couple of sort of, I would say, hard left activists. So I'm covering quite a big spectrum of political behaviour. I don't think anyone is black to anyone else is white.
Yeah.
Put it that way. Yeah.
Do you feel, or is there is there a bit of you that would like to put that part of your personality into a book?
What, the mouthy part?
Well, the slightly mouthy, the slightly kind of I know what's best.
No. That's a separate part of me that goes that gets aerated on Twitter. That's something different.
Now, talking about the television series, it's just been announced that actually the BBC are kind of way down the line with developing this. Have they filmed it already, or are they?
No.
Oh, okay.
So we're not filming yet.
So what's the timeline? How long does it take you to write Lethal White? And then how far ahead do the BBC see it and all those sorts of things?
Well, this one took quite a long time to write.
Well, you say that. You say that it's...
Yeah.
Why was this a harder book to write?
Because I was simultaneously working on a play and 2 screenplays.
Fair enough. So it wasn't harder. You were busier.
Yeah, it was busier. And it's the longest of the series so far. And probably has the most complex plot. So, but I loved writing it. I really enjoyed writing this book. It's probably my favourite of the series in terms of how it turned out, but also just sheer enjoyment. I loved it. I really did.
And do you like the discipline of... Because, I don't know, but in the Harry Potter world, obviously there's lots of rules, but you made them up.
Yeah.
Whereas this is, things can only happen if they can happen.
It's so different and it's wonderful. I love going to real places to research them. I love writing about the actual physical world. It's such a contrast to this entirely invented society. Yeah. I mean, I enjoy both of them, but this has its own particular pleasure. You
say you like travelling. You like going to locations and stuff. But do you pop a wig on, or because do people make a fuss? Do people make a fuss when you show up?
No, because I'm always not. Do you know what? I really do manage to lead a very unnoticed life, which is just the way I like it. I think as a woman and not a particularly tall person, I blend in quite easily. But we did have one really funny experience. There's a little cafe by Smithfield Market that I used as a location in the second Strike book. And this was before I'd been unmasked. And my husband and I went there really early. I wanted to see what it was like. It was just so atmospheric opposite the meat market. And this man came in a high-vis jacket. He'd just been unloading meat carcasses. And he said at the top of his voice, "Someone told me J.K. Rowling was in here." And he looked directly at me. And then he went, "I wouldn't know what she looks like," and walked out again. Because I just froze, and my husband freezes with a chip halfway to his mouth because I've asked him to order what Strike would order, which was a huge, cooked breakfast. He loves doing these books because he just gets to eat rubbish. And we both looked at each other, and then that was that. And I took my covert photos, and then I used it, and it's the opening scene of The Silkworm, which is the second book.
And then are there moments when you can use who you are to open, or you can explore locations that other people couldn't?
Yes, I did on this book, on Lethal White, because I received assistance from a government minister. Actually, Joanna Shields was really kind and let me see DCMS, and Jess Phillips showed me around the Houses of Parliament, so that was great.
There's some perks. There's got to be some perks.
There are real perks, I don't deny it.
And it's interesting you say, I hoped with Robert Galbraith I'd get 3 books out of it before you were discovered. So you'd always planned to spend that much time with Cormoran Strike?
Well, I actually planned to go beyond that. I mean, I think I could easily write 10 of these. But I didn't know. I didn't know if I genuinely didn't know whether it would get published because I was going in as a total unknown. Yeah. And then when it did find a publisher, I thought, well, you never, I know how publishing works. So I thought, well, if they're not very successful, no one's going to want to keep publishing them. Yeah. So I had a genuine ambition that maybe I would get 3 out. And I suppose from my Potter experience, I know that at 3 books, often a series will start to gain a certain momentum. So that was my ambition. And
also, I suppose that, really good books get lost in the...
They do get lost, absolutely. There are... well, that sounds really as though I think my books are really good, but I mean, I don't think that people are unlucky. There's always an element of luck in success, in everyone's success, mine included.
And I suppose your story is such an inspiring story to kind of struggling writers,
right?
But equally, there must be writers that
who want to kneecap me.
But also writers you just want to say to them, no, you should give up. Yeah. No, I was a little more than lucky. You'll need to be a lot more than lucky.
I'm not commenting on that.
No, because that thing kind of like, follow your dream. And it's like, you should really stop following your dream.
That's something that American interviewers always want me to say. Would you just say to people, I did once, years ago, I was very tired. I'd been on a very long book tour, and this woman was absolutely determined to make me say the words, follow your dream. And I snapped and I said, but look, these are empty words. I mean, sometimes people don't have the means to follow their dream. She did not like my answer at all.
Yeah, we're not supposed to say that.
I wasn't supposed to say that.
Right, people have been in touch. Ben in Nottingham. Which of the 4 Strike novels was the easiest, quickest to write? Presumably the first one.
No, actually, it was the second one.
Oh.
Silkworm was the easiest and quickest to write because I had that plot first, but I chose to write it second because I had this arc in my mind of Strike. I thought his first case has to be one that would give him a certain amount of notoriety, and an obscure writer didn't do that. So his first case is the death of a supermodel. Basically.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Brian Litchfield, which is most gratifying? Seeing one of your novels at the top of the bestseller list or one of your movies at number 1 at the box office?
Novel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, that you don't adapt these books for the BBC?
No, I don't. I don't.
Are you tempted?
No, because I think it's a very particular skill. I've been really lucky to work with the people who've adapted it, Tom Edge and Ben Richardson, and I work with Jack Thorne as well on the play, the Harry Potter play, and it's a particular skill, and I'm not sure that I have it.
But screenplays you do?
Yeah, I think that's different. I mean, it's not adapting an original work. I'm actually inventing there, so it feels different, yeah.
And was it odd when you did the first screenplay, the first standalone screenplay?
Oh, God, yes. It was really... It's such a different discipline, so very different from novel writing. And I think I'm definitely meant to write novels. Having said that, part of the pleasure of writing screenplays is how collaborative that process is, and I do really enjoy that part of it.
Sarah and Deal has a very good question. When it comes to plotting a whodunit, as you say, the plot in this is very intricate. A lot of things need to all tie together. How easy is it to allow yourself to be surprised and or change your mind?
Well, I don't. By the time I commit to writing these novels, I know exactly who did it, how they did it, why they did it. I don't change my mind.
Isn't that interesting? So the characters don't, you could suddenly kind of think, oh, actually, I'm not sure they would have done this, or, oh, actually, this character is much more horrible than I thought they were going to be, or...
No, I think I spend I spend a lot of time with the characters before I really commit to writing the whole novel. So I do very, very detailed plans, and I've got to know them before I set them all in motion.
Okay. Ian Wentworth, why didn't you do the audiobooks? I've nothing against Robert Glenister. That's good. Doesn't have a vendetta or anything. Hasn't taken a hit out on him. But did anyone ever think of asking you?
I couldn't do it. No way. No, I'm not by any means an actress. I hate the sound of my own voice, she said, speaking on radio. But I won't listen to this, so that's fine. No.
There's another listener. We must stop having people on.
I do listen to you every time, except when I'm on the programme. I will be missing this one. No, I definitely don't want to read my own books. I would find that painful and embarrassing. And also, as you read it, because I know this from doing book events, you immediately start editing it in your head. You think, why on earth did I write it like that? The sentence is much more natural the other way around, and it's a horrible experience. And
because presumably when you started, you didn't have a choice. Okay, Joe, in the car, you're off. You're going to flog this book now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you had to do it.
In the good old days, there was a lot of that, and that was that was fine. That's the deal. But I was borderline phobic about public speaking, so it's been a very long journey for me to get to a point where I can comfortably stand up in front of a lot of people and read my work.
But what's interesting is, so now you're comfortable with it, but now you don't have to do it.
Yeah, isn't that ironic? I'm always nervous. The thing that I do most, I mostly do speeches and things on behalf of my charity Lumos now, and that's a different kind of pressure because you do want to get that right, obviously, because you don't want to misrepresent facts and figures and so on. But I've definitely got more used to it, but I don't think I'm ever going to love it.
Okay. Michael and Fleet, how far ahead have you planned the world of Strike, and how has your writing been affected by seeing... Oh, well, I asked you about the TV shows. So you said you could imagine doing 10, but do you have another 6 stories in your head?
No, I don't, but I do have a few more plots. I know the plot of the next one, and I think I know the plot of the one after that.
That's nuts. That's all going on. Your head seems too small. I can't imagine all of that in there. Do you have an iCloud? A remote. An iHead, some remote in a cupboard.
I do think obsessively about these things. It is a compulsion, really. Yeah.
Rebecca in Stoke, maybe this is an unfair question to ask. What was the last book you read and couldn't put down?
I've recently read a couple of good books. I read, this is an old book I read. The last thing that I read that I absolutely loved is quite an old book. It's Caroline Blackwood, The Last Duchess, which is a very sinister book about the Duchess of Windsor. It's a sort of part reportage and part essay on ageing and fame and money, and it was really, well written and beautiful.
Oh, well, The Last Duchess.
And creepy, yeah.
Oh, it'll be in the charts tomorrow. Polly from Southend, who are you most like, Strike or Robin, his loyal assistant?
Well, she's now his partner. She's not really an assistant anymore. She's in fact, in this book, I think she does more. Well, she does a lot more undercover work than he does. I'm probably more like Strike.
Well, it's interesting because in this book, Strike gets famous. You have some asides about fame in this book.
Well, I get to yes, you're right. It's a very satisfying way of talking about that, actually, through that character. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yes. Yes. I hear what you're saying. I must read this out because we've got so many comments like this from Catherine in Oxford. I'm the mom of 2 sons. There was a time when they were entering their teens when I worried they would never read or discover books. Because of your wonderful stories, and having seen you do public reading of one of your stories in a bookshop, they fell in love with reading and haven't stopped. On behalf of parents up and down the country, I just wanted to say a heartfelt thank you. So.
Oh, well, I can't be at all flippant about that. That's just about the most amazing thing you can be told. That's incredible.
Well, because you are kind of, I was going to say this generation's, but already it's been several generations of kids have come to reading through you. Which is
genuinely, what's books have been my escape, my solace, my everything at certain times in my life, and I love the idea that the Potter books were that for other people. I really do.
Lethal White, the 4th Cormoran Strike novel by Robert Galbraith, is out now. It's published by Sphere. There, I can say SPH. Sphere. Thank you so much for coming in.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Graham